Hello, MCU fans. Today we're going to look at what I'm calling a bonus round to the video I did recently of 60 unanswered questions in the MCU, because thanks to folks that watched and commented on that video, they added more questions, 13 more to be exact. So yes, that is 73 total unanswered questions in the MCU. And if you remember, these are questions that have been posed or raised by the movies or TV shows in phases 1 through 4 and have not been answered in a Marvel property so far. Now, I did have some people say things like, hey, you know, the answer's in the trailer for such and such. But as we know, Marvel can be very misleading in the trailers, sometimes showing things out of context, sometimes even showing things that don't even appear in the movie or TV show. So I'm not counting things where there's rumors or trailers for something yet to come out. These are questions that have not been answered in something that has actually come out. So with that in mind, let's dive right in and look at the new set of questions that have been raised about open issues in the MCU phases 1 through 4. So first, shout out to Francisco Ramirez for asking what happened to Betty Ross. You know, if you think about the Incredible Hulk movie, we have seen the appearances of Thunderbolt Ross from that movie and Abomination, of course, Incredible Hulk. One of the open questions was, will we see Leader again, which I suspect we will. But it's also a fair question to ask, what's happened with Betty Ross? We saw her in a What If episode, but that was not Earth 616. So, you know, hopefully in She-Hulk, we'll get maybe at least some reference to her and what happened to her. And maybe even an appearance. That would be incredible. But, you know, let's tie up her story. What happened with her and where is she in the Hulk right now? You know, relationship-wise. Are they friends or enemies? You know, what happened? So thank you, Francisco, for that question. King of Corbin asked, have we seen the last of AIM? Another good question. You know, in Iron Man 3, Aldrich Killian was the founder and CEO of AIM, and of course he died. But that doesn't mean the organization is gone. That's a real important scientific, evil scientific organization in the MCU and in the comics. And in fact, in the comics, AIM helped create MODOK. So I am hoping that in Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, we may see MODOK, but more importantly, learn a little bit more about what AIM has been up to. Now, this next one, I just completely missed. 5 different people asked this question. JB, Nate Go, Theatrical Cosplay, Larry Official, and King of Corbin all asked, what about Mitchell Carson and the stolen Pym particles? You might remember at the end of the first Ant-Man movie, Hydra agent Mitchell Carson took off with a briefcase full of Pym particles. We saw him getting bitten by ants and frustrated by that, but we really don't know what happened to him. And that's a pretty big plot line. I mean, Hydra agent with Pym particles, yikes. So hopefully in Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, they will make some reference to what ended up happening with those stolen Pym particles. King of Corbin asked, what happened to Helen Cho? Another fair question. You know, she appeared in Age of Ultron, brilliant scientist, helped him out a great deal, and then we haven't seen her again. So it'd be kind of nice for her to come back and help the Avengers when they're in a real difficult situation, such as Avengers Kang Dynasty. I mean, they need all hands on deck, everybody with scientific smarts to try to figure out what to do with somebody who basically operates outside of time. So yeah, what's up with Helen Cho? And thank you for King of Corbin for asking that question. And King of Corbin also asked, what's next for the new Ravagers that we met? You know, if at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, we met several Ravagers who have actually appeared as members of the Guardians in the comics. Of course, on the right, you know, who could mistake Martin X there, for example. So I would love that for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 to address, you know, what happens next with these folks and maybe do some of them join the Guardians. You know, we're hearing rumors that some Guardians may die and that the current team will not be the same going forward. Well, looks like a lot of good new team members here. So thank you, King of Corbin, for bringing up that point. BewTube asked, what's next for the Red Skull with the Soul Stone being destroyed? Man, that is a great question. If you think about it, you know, the Soul Stone was demolished when Thanos snapped and destroyed all the Infinity Stones, or they got destroyed. And even the ones that were brought forward to undo the snap, you know, those end up going back in time again. So basically the question is Red Skull now able to leave Vormir? I mean, he doesn't need to guard the Soul Stone anymore. So, hey, I'd love to see him again. It's just a great question. Let's have him show up, maybe in Captain America: New World Order, or maybe he teams up with Kang or Doctor Doom in Secret Wars. But he's just a fantastic villain, and theoretically, he's kind of done with his work there on Vormir. So, great question. TheDirect.com did not watch my video, I doubt, although if they did, how cool is that? But I did want to put this one in because I thought this was such a great question that I've seen raised recently, which is, what did the Kree Sleeper cell conversation mean? In Spider-Man Far From Home, Nick Fury and Maria Hill, who of course are not Nick Fury and Maria Hill, but Talos and his wife, have a throwaway comment that you almost can't hear unless you turn on closed captions so you can see what they're saying. But they ask a question about, they thought the Kree Sleeper cell situation was top secret. So they're implying that someone's found out about there being Kree Sleeper cells. Well, wow, so much going on with that one sentence. What are the Kree Sleeper cells to begin with? How have they been discovered? Who found out about them? Oh my word. A lot going on there with a sentence that you almost could maybe not hear and certainly would have easily forgotten about. So I'm hoping Secret Invasion answers that question and lets us know a little more of what's going on. I mean, obviously the Skrulls are going to appear there, but man, we may have things going on with Kree as well. So next question from Danielle. What happened to the beekeeper? That's a fair question. The beekeeper had a real prominent role in WandaVision, and we never really saw what happened. Presumably after the Hex was destroyed, the beekeeper went back and worked for S.W.O.R.D. again. Or maybe said, I'm done, I'm out of here, I'm retiring. But still, it would be fun to have a little callback that just tells us what happened, and Agatha Coven of Chaos is the perfect place for that to happen. So thank you, Danielle. Naomi asked, where did Ravonna go at the end of Loki Season 1? Very fair question. She takes off in that portal, and we just don't know where she was headed. Now, in the comics, she's been a lover of Kang. The two have been lovers. So maybe she headed off to go with Kang because Kang had some escape plan for her. Maybe she went somewhere else altogether different. I mean, I really think Loki Season 2 is going to pick up on that for obvious reasons, but it's just a great open-ended question that I had not considered. So thank you, Naomi, for suggesting that. Ellie had a really good question about Agent Cleary. In No Way Home, he mentions to Peter Parker that Nick Fury is off-world and has been so for a year. Well, how did he know that? He's an agent of damage control. Why would he know that Nick Fury is in space, presumably working for S.W.O.R.D.? It raises a lot of questions. Is S.W.O.R.D. working with damage control? Is Agent Cleary a Skrull? And maybe that's why he knows what Fury's doing. So maybe damage control isn't working with S.W.O.R.D., but Agent Cleary is working with S.W.O.R.D. Just a whole lot of questions with otherwise a throwaway comment. So it would be great to get that answered in Secret Invasion, which, if you can't tell, man, Secret Invasion has the potential to be an amazing series. I just can't wait. They're going to probably answer so many questions and probably bring up a whole bunch more. But so again, excellent question. M567DK asked, what happened to 616 Uncle Ben? And we know what happened to the Uncle Ben in Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire's universes, but what happened to Uncle Ben in Tom Holland's? I mean, presumably he's dead, but how did he die? And what relevance to Peter Parker was Uncle Ben's death? And what I mean by that is we find out in No Way Home that it's Aunt May who actually says the famous with great power comes great responsibility phrase. So then does that mean Uncle Ben didn't say it in Tom Holland's universe? What did he say, if anything? What role did he play in Tom Holland becoming Spider-Man, Peter Parker becoming Spider-Man? All great questions. And I actually think we may get the answer in Spider-Man freshman year. Now, keep in mind, that has been revealed to be a multiverse story, so not 616. However, typically the multiverse stories, the what-if stories, have the what if point, the point where it diverges. And in the case of Spider-Man freshman year, the what if point is what if Norman Osborn mentored Spider-Man instead of Tony Stark? Well, one would think Uncle Ben had already died at that point. So theoretically, whatever we learn in Spider-Man freshman year prior to Norman Osborn mentoring Spider-Man probably is also the things that happen in 616. So it's not guaranteed, but we may get a good indication of what happened to Uncle Ben in Spider-Man freshman year. Sergio asked a really good question. Who is in charge of all the Stark tech that keeps popping up? Of course, in Far From Home, we learned about the Edith drones, which were given over to Peter Parker, and of course he gave them over to Mysterio. Then in No Way Home, Damage Control is basically getting them back, so Damage Control owns them, it seems, and then Damage Control, of course, used them in Miss Marvel to chase after Miss Marvel. So that raises a really good question. Why is Damage Control using Stark tech? Is Pepper still in charge of Stark Industries? Is she working with Damage Control? Has Damage Control stolen them and not told Stark Industries? Really a lot of good questions there. So hopefully we're going to get those answers soon. And I'm going to throw out Armor Wars as a possible place because I think a lot of the Stark technology questions are going to come up in that series. So looking forward to getting the answers to who on earth is hoarding all this Stark tech. Metal Evolution asked a good question. Will Thor and Loki, the variant, ever meet again? I hope so. That would be really cool. I mean, obviously the Loki variant has gone down a very different path, has really learned from his mistakes, and it'd be fun to see the two of them come back together again. In fact, I would throw out Kang Dynasty. That'd be a great place. If Loki Season 2 somehow leads into Kang Dynasty so that the Loki variant and Thor get together to ultimately, with a lot of others, obviously, but to ultimately defeat Kang. That'd be pretty cool. So there you have it. Another 13 open questions by phase. And so the totals, if you add this video and the previous video, that leaves 2 open questions that came out of phase 1, 3 from phase 2, 23 from phase 3, and 44 from phase 4. Goodness. So the good news is, though, it would be 45, but since my making of that video a couple weeks ago, we've already got one of the answers in She-Hulk, which was how did Bruce Banner turn human and what's up with his arm? So Marvel is answering them as things come out, but I really would like to see the ones from phase 1, 2, and 3 answered. I mean, phase 4, it makes sense. Of course, there's going to be a lot of open questions from phase 4, but man, phase 1, 2, and 3, let's knock those off the list. So looking forward to seeing more and more things answered in the future. I thank you to everyone who made all these great suggestions. And I would love it if you'd like this video. If you haven't subscribed, you can subscribe. There's lots more videos you can watch. And of course, let's see these questions become answered in the ever-growing, ever-changing Marvel Cinematic Universe.